Sharon and Eve were both crying.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that means and how to interpret that, but
Not good. So we have two not here?
Dave and Jenny are.
Okay, so let's take one of these out of the works. Hopefully this will be like last time and no one will come.
Yeah, hopefully. I think Mr. Bennett is pretty much checked out.
Oh, yeah.
When I called him this morning, it's like, no, I'm not gonna be there.
Yeah.
I'll see you next week. Like, okay, Dave.
Yeah.
What is going on? Oh, that's not good. Our mic system's gone. Oh, it's rebooting for some reason, that's weird.
What's that? Sure, I'm sorry.
The mic system is not working.
Is it turned on in the,
Well, it's rebooting itself for some reason. And John Springer's not gonna know how to run it. Oh, my goodness. Literally, it's like dead. Oh, dear. That's not a good thing.
Test, test.
So this thing,
Uh-huh.
that usually has like all the mics
Right.
on it, and it has a button to mute and unmute. And it had a thing on there that said,
Source power. Looked like a
main
track.
power source, yes or no, and I said yes. Or main screen, whatever, and I said yes. And then it did a blue thing like it was rebooting,
Okay.
and went to purple, and now I have nothing.
Well, let's get him back on the screen.
Hey, John.
Sorry, I got a different issue now. Sherry called me, she's having problems with the microphones.
So let me explain it to you, Jaron. So that little box that's on my desk,
Uh-huh.
that has all the, normally has the pictures of all the mics for the board and Ryan's and everything. It had this purple screen on it when I came in, and I hit it to just tap the screen to wake it up. And it said, do you want to go to the main screen, yes or no? It didn't have the normal picture on it. So I hit the yes button to go to the main screen, and it flashed like blue, like it was rebooting, and then went to this purple screen, and now it has nothing on it but just a purple screen.
Okay, let's go to the closet.
Okay?
Okay?
And let's turn off the amp.
The amp, that's, which one is that on the bottom?
Yeah, I think it has a blue light.
Okay.
The far right.
Over on the far right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It says, do not adjust the volume, see Jaron for assistance.
Yeah, it'll be that one.
Okay,
Okay.
turn it off.
Turn it off?
Let's turn that one off. And is there a device above that?
No, got a rack or so up, wireless 3.
Okay, we don't want to touch that one. And we don't want to touch the red button that shuts things off, because that will shut the video stream off.
Well, no, there's a master one below it.
Yeah, we don't want to touch the master one.
Okay, so we got a green light on the power. Now do we hit it again?
Yeah.
Do you have to hold it? Because it went back to blue, Jaron. Do you have to hold the button down?
If it's gone back to blue, that's good, so it'll take a bit to reboot.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So we can then go back to our other thing and it might show that it's rebooting.
It's not, it's still purple. What if I unplug the back of it with that little wire?
Yeah, let's unplug the back of the,
Few minutes.
Which part's not working?
The whole thing. The whole mic system isn't working.
Okay.
Okay. It's got a white circle. Well, it did have. I wonder if we have a short in it or something. Because right as soon as he plugged it back in, it had a white circle with a blue hand in it. And then as soon as he set it back on the stand, it went off.
went off.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, there it goes. Okay, hold on. It just came on and went off again.
yeah, I saw green light for a second, I don't know.
It might be booting up right now.
It's flashing,
It flashed like a white
Yeah.
That's a connection one there.
yeah,
That
and
means it's got
it's,
connection.
well, it doesn't now, right?
How you doing?
It's dead. I mean, it's
Yeah,
it's not
it did for a
doing-
while, but
Don't
Let's
have to
see,
stash
it's
it
still
fast,
talking
so-
about.
Okay.
yeah, let it sit there for a minute so that it's going out. See if it isn't blinking.
But like
How you
this
doing,
little
Kay?
thing here
Good.
isn't even lit up.
How about
The
yourself?
little end thing.
Good.
There's, on the back,
Wait a minute,
oh,
here it comes, here it comes.
Okay, hold on. This is what it did when it went purple on me.
Yeah, there's, it's got the purple screen now.
It
So we're back
rebooted,
to purple.
but it's back to.
Well, it's coming up, so I think it's still coming up.
Okay.
But that's what it did, and it stayed there the whole time, the purple. It did that imaging thing,
Right.
and then it went to this purple page, and then it never would go past the purple page. Do we have a backup, Jared, for Mike? Can we use the cordless ones, or is it
Well,
all
I
tied
can tell
in?
you right now, I just got a text from Eddie Halls.
Okay,
I can hear everything on YouTube.
okay.
So that means they're hearing all of the sound.
Yeah,
On the
because I
video
took it, I hit the mute button, and it took it off mute, and then it went crazy. So I can't get it off mute, and I can't see the screen. So they're hearing everything we're saying right now?
They're hearing everything that we're saying on the live stream.
Okay,
So,
okay. So the screen's out, but they can hear.
yeah.
So I don't know what to do at this point. There's no way to have any control over the,
Yeah, there's no response on it.
There's no control right now, but at least people will be able to hear.
Hear what's going on.
So let me, I'm gonna have Edie call Eddie. And John, I'm gonna have you just go up to each mic on the podium and just test it if you don't mind. And I'll make sure that Eddie can hear those.
Okay. You need to test it by, what, talking into it, or? Oh,
Yeah, just talking to it.
hit the push button?
You shouldn't have to push a button right there.
Oh,
if
I'm
it's
assuming
on
they're
like that,
live.
then you just have to talk in the mic. and
oh,
just-
okay.
You can just do test 1, 2.
All
and then
right,
go to the
test
next
1,
one,
2,
test 1, 2.
3. Call this one mic 2.
Hang on a second, John.
Okay.
We'll wait to get Eddie on the phone.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. Hey, Eddie. I'm gonna have John talking to each mic. I just want to make sure you can hear it on the live stream.
You ready?
So, yeah.
Test mic 3. Any sound coming out of this one?
Any sound?
Test 1, 2, 3.
Oh, there's gonna be a 30-second delay. And I forgot there'll be a 30-second delay, so it'll, go ahead and do each one, and then I'll visit with her.
All right, test mic 4. Test 1, 2, 3. Test mic 5. 1, 2, 3. There's sound coming out of the speakers.
Speaker.
Yeah. When you tap on the microphones, the speakers in here are
Okay. That means that we've got everything straight, it's just not gonna be able to see it.
Testing, you can't hear.
okay, so the control panel is pretty much not working.
So, okay.
Okay, everything's working then?
Everything's working.
Okay,
Eddie says she can hear everything, so.
yeah, we're,
This one.
So,
Turned it on.
okay,
all right, hey, appreciate it. Thanks, you guys.
all right,
Okay, bye-bye.
bye.
No. There's the screen now. I think
They called me in case they needed some assistance survey.
And you stepped right up and said.
I'm here, but it seems like they've got it solved, so.
I just gotta finish putting the links on the
K
website.
to the Tech Restaurant.
So I'll still be around.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
so I guess everything's running.
Oh.
Is that gonna be able to report off that, or?
Oh, this is my own.
Oh, I know, I didn't know if you were tapping into the system or not.
If they're not.
Haven't seen you
I didn't know whether.
cutting
I
meat
can,
for a
but
while.
I don't.
No, when are you doing it?
All right, I had to put a link up on the website.
When are you gonna do that? I think we're all on in here, so.
Oh, I got one coming.
When do you start doing that? Just cutting that
We usually
slug?
do it in the fall, yeah, like right now.
Yeah, I know I've been out there. I've still been looking for one with bulls, but can't anymore, with horns, antlers. Probably should shoot one with horns. How you doing?
I'm good, how you doing?
Well, talk.
Well, what?
You okay if I talk like this?
I'm fine, okay.
I know how this affects agriculture. So we should have looked at what we voted to do. We voted unanimously to hire a couple suitable, you know, like that, and how this would come out. It could change everybody's mind after that, you know, so. You're allowed to feel that.
Oh, no, okay, I agree with you, and to be honest with you, I do.
Yeah.
Feel differently about it, and it's, you know, like you're saying, what we voted on, I didn't vote to say, go ahead and build it. I voted to say, let's let the people decide if this is something they want or not. And if the people decide it's something they want, that's the board's decision, and I'm fine with that. But me personally, I do have different views, and that's what a board's for.
Yes, ma'am. That's right. I just felt, and it wasn't, it was like 6 weeks ago.
How you doing?
Not too bad yourself?
Felt
Not bad.
trying to get on the spot with it.
You guys could probably spread out a little bit.
You know, like that.
So I know David's not coming in, there's Jamie.
No.
Well, really, nobody's
We'll take the
here.
end and then we'll...
See if it was,
No, and that's, like I said, the ag community, because the paper portrayed it as exactly that we said, yeah, we can build it, let's go ahead. And so, of course, the ag community came in and said, what did you do? And I said, hey, we haven't voted on anything like that. And I said, we can't do anything like that without the public's comments and things like that.
See, and then another thing we're kind of getting is why don't we pursue the one that says that can't be done by the municipal.
No.
That the county commissioners.
Yeah.
But, yeah, people have their own accounts.
Oh.
That's what you do it for.
Yeah.
But I do, as a young girl, I didn't want to feel guilty to your family. I think the board hasn't happened.
No, and I appreciate it, I really do, because I'll be honest with you, this last meeting, Jamie Barrack looked over and she says, I think we're all really on board with this, and she looked at me and I kind of gave this look like, you don't know that, Jamie. Nobody's ever come out and said that.
And that's why I argue every time that I'm talking to somebody.
Yeah.
I always argue. We want to look at the back of the days and somebody must have had somebody here.
I agree.
Because it gives a different perspective to bus, to meals, to time you start school, you know, like that.
Oh, I agree.
If we have one members of the local here in the city limits, we don't even know what it's like to go out at 5:30 and get on the bus.
No, I agree with you, Kay, because there is going to be some things with busing, not right now for me personally, but in the future,
Yeah.
there's going to be some conflicts.
Especially
My
if-
wife is going to be sitting in a bus stop for an hour every day,
Yeah.
waiting for 2 different buses.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and especially financially, we don't know what's going to happen in the state.
no, and that's,
And that could affect us drastically. I wouldn't think of that because my person is so tight, especially when it's kind of shorter,
oh,
that you don't want to touch that. That's the federal, that's the federal. Well, we have to run a bus out there at a certain time.
Yeah.
That's why I always thought district was really smart about buying big buses.
yes.
Because they really cost about the same time as those buses.
Yep.
They won't let you run Suburban. I drove. almost a 4-wheel drive bus, you know, for something. I drove bus on Ocean Hole first time.
Oh, really?
If you were a man teacher, you would go get your, let's call it Class B license at that time. In case a bus driver called in, you know.
So you could drive.
it out. And then you also had to be trained on a boiler. You know, your man teacher.
Oh, really?
Everybody knows coal nosing conveyor belt boiler. You know, they're all before man teachers in school.
Make sure the school stays warm.
Yeah. But I got called quite a few times to go drive. They tell you how to get to the first kid's house. And then the kid does. Over in Eastern, it's almost section roads.
Oh,
So the window was, got a drop of snow going this way, and you turn this way, there's 5 foot of snow. And the buses we had 5-speed transmission, and then had an overseer.
oh,
She lifted with you.
Cassie, the lights are on, just so you know.
Okay.
Yeah, I drove a bus on a field trip. We took a science PE field trip while I was there. To the Black Hills. And I drove a
Our
bus
system
through
kind of
Edwards.
choked, but the lights are on, I think.
It's an old,
I
it's
have.
Smart City. It's a smart city for gambling.
I won't say anything.
And streets are narrow, and I got going down there and just make it burn. You just stop. Didn't bounce the curb or anything. Then you gotta drive out your way and see what's going on out there. Yeah. Wilson and I are gonna go hunt tomorrow.
Oh, yeah?
And then I'm about to close down.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I've hunted a lot. I haven't seen anything since opening. But I went bow hunting. So that added a month to my hunt, you know. And I saw 2 spikes opening morning. Within rifle range, but not bow range. And then after that, I haven't seen anything but maybe a mile and a half away, you know.
Where you at?
Well, I've been in Large Creek. I just spent some time up on top of Commissary, quite a ways, like closer to Kemmer. And that thing goes up. You ever been on that ridge?
I haven't. I've heard people go there though.
That goes up fast. Pretty good. 9,600 feet pretty fast. You can see the world. See Green Mountain. And you're supposed to have the reservoir by. They said it's 50th this summer. Farmville. Farmville over here, Green Mountain over here, you know, and the coal company up like came on the point. I had to see them there. Moose.
See, it was hard. We did get into some of it, but it's not like it's been up here.
Yeah.
We got into a few. I got a bull. My brother got a bull. But we weren't seeing him in herds. The bull I shot ran right at me through the trees.
Yeah.
He was by himself.
Yeah.
Just they spooked him up and he ran right to me on the ridge where I was at.
And they even, did you hear anything?
No. Well, early on, okay, when it's still warm, I was up on our Utah line section. I've got a video. I wish you could hear the Utah, but you can't see them. There were some massive bulls up there just screaming at me and my horse. Come hunting season, I'll bet we heard maybe 5-6 bugles in 3 days. They just weren't talking.
You guys may want to spread out a little bit,
Just us?
because Jenny and Dave aren't going to be here, so there's no one in this seat, no one in that seat.
Yeah, we didn't hear
It's up to you.
That's as far as I can spread.
Yeah.
There you go.
Which one my nephew got up by Rock Springs?
Oh, South. Yeah.
That guy got over there.
Got down there.
Made it just in time.
Perfect time.
Am I here or am I over here?
You're good there, too.
I can do whatever I want to do.
All mics are live, but that's right, we are live. Outside conversations, we heard everywhere.
Did you?
Why do I feel like I'm always running in here with my hair on fire?
You probably are.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Well, you wear it well.
But I probably should.
Goodness.
My diet. Yeah, fell right through just like that.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't too far off the creek where we got him, that was one last year. That's my other nephew, and they got 4 times over there,
Yeah.
and he shot that one at 960 yards.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
It's a 6.5 Creed one.
Oh, my son just bought one. It's
Did
bad.
he? I don't know if you know.
How are you?
See this one, this is one younger brother shot. That's bad. He was in high school.
Yeah, I think I was gonna say I was seen
Have ya?
it.
He sold them for $100. He sold the antlers, and the kid that bought them did that to it. I don't know.
All right, it's the witching hour, as they say, in a Halloween spirit. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. If everybody will please stand and say pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So welcome everyone to this special meeting of the school board. We are here for one item and one item only, I believe, and that's a public hearing on the Fieldhouse. I guess I do need somebody to make a motion to approve the one item agenda.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great. Okay, we're on our one item. Why don't you give us an update first, and then we'll open
Okay.
the public hearing? Does that work?
That'll work. Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you for this opportunity. Just like to report that the committee's been working hard, very dedicated, and we do have one of the co-chairs of the committee here with us, Mr. Porter. Just like to express appreciation to him for his work and dedication and commitment. He has really put effort into this, and it was really interesting watching the committee work and the members that have taken off and put time into this and money into this for this campaign. So I'd just like to express appreciation for Mr. Porter for his work, and hopefully he'll make a comment later. I can tell you that we do have lots of information on our website for those who still have questions about the Fieldhouse, its cost, its expense, the purpose. Still very excited about this in terms of a commitment to our students' future and our community's future. We understand it is an expense, so this is truly an investment in our kids' future and in the future of our community. I do have a little I don't know what you call it, blog or a clip, video clip that explains all of the funding and the reasons. That's on our website if anyone would like to see that. We'd like to show it tonight because I'm really impressed with it, but I won't do that to anybody. Just kidding, I'm not that impressed with it. But it provides, I think, essential information for someone who's interested in making a decision. Just a reminder, this is Proposition 2 on the ballot. Really doesn't tell you more than Proposition 2 unless you read it. So hopefully individuals read through it and will make a decision based on the information they have. I'm here to really answer any of your questions about what has been done, and I think we'll see something in the paper, is it Friday? So again, there's I think a half-page ad in there, anyway, that's about all I have to report, unless you have some questions or would like anything.
Does anyone have any questions, or? No, I appreciate all the work the committee has done as well. I mean, obviously, I think the board supported the idea. Obviously, the only way to get it in front of the voters is for us to move that forward. And we felt pretty strongly about at least getting it out in front of the voters. And now it's up to the community at this point in time to tell us what they want. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Do we have a way to get electronic
No.
comments? Just in person?
Yep.
Okay. Any comments from the public? Anyone, Bueller? Come on up.
Yes.
Well, you
Name
have
and
to say it
address.
for the record. You can unmask, yeah.
I am Kelly Gill. You really need the address? 8262 County Road 171, Fort Bridger, Wyoming. I am in your school district.
I don't know if anyone could find it, even if they wanted to, unless they knew where you live.
I have concerns with this over a couple of different things. First is, I understand that there was an opportunity for us to have soccer fields that would be at least partially paid for by other means, and we chose not to do that. And second, I don't know if there's been enough information given back to you as to the cost that it's going to be to the agriculture community in Uintah County. It's going to be substantially more than anything that has ever come out from your committee. I have checked with the county treasurer's department, and I know what it's going to cost agriculture. Agriculture is about the only thing left in Uintah County for the tax base. And it concerns me that we're going to put that much pressure on agriculture over 20 years of paying for a building when we could have had fields for much less that would have sufficed, at least for part of the reasoning, I guess, for this field house. So that would be my comments, that would be my concerns. It's going to put pressure on agriculture, and agriculture can't field a whole lot more pressure and still survive. So.
Appreciate it, thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
So I guess my question is, back to you, is I was not aware of that. When did the funding become available and who was that through on the soccer fields?
If I'm not mistaken, there was funding available through the state of Wyoming, and I know through the city of Evanston, because I was in the project, I was involved in the project of that piping system through the city of Evanston.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I made a presentation on that, I think, 2 months ago. If you recall, that the city's in negotiations or works. They just had a public forum to get comments back in. It involves the city ditch, and with that, federal funds that would allow at the end or at the beginning some kind of 50-50 whatever, development, green development. We got interested in that when it was originally proposed, and we're still interested in it, but it's really not up to us. It has to move forward. It's a federal grant. So that's not off the table. Matter of fact, if you remember, I've actually said that may be a way that in the future we could have a field or fields, depending on where we could put that. The Red Devil Ranch is where that potentially would be, because Red Devil Ranch would benefit because of pressurized water, and also the 40 acres out there would be a location for those fields. We wouldn't do that without getting other lands available, either by lease for that Red Devil Ranch. So we're still hoping that if the Fieldhouse complex does not go through, that those funds will be approved. The challenge is the city, I think, has been clear, they don't know if they have the funds to do what they originally talked about. So if we can continue to move forward with 50% of the funds from us, it's still a lot of ifs, ands, and not really sures. I think I mentioned that as a plan B or maybe plan C if things didn't move forward. So none of that's off the table. It's just really in the discussion phase. There would have to be a design phase, which would be, of course, be involved, and then implementation, and then hopefully it'll be funded. But that's kind of not off the works.
Well, I was going to say, I appreciate the concerns, Kelly. I don't have any idea how personally this is going to impact and how much it's going to cost, and I don't expect you to tell me. I don't know that we actually did think about, we were thinking about primary residences, not necessarily all the agricultural land. And so I appreciate that concern being raised. I know that obviously having full-sized regulation soccer fields has been a big issue. We've looked at a lot of different plans. We did look at using Red Devil Ranch. At the time, we didn't know about this grant, and we're looking to have to fund it all by ourselves, and that just wasn't feasible as much as we wanted to. We were looking for big money donors, but that didn't seem to materialize.
Or just to borrow. is what
Just to
we
borrow
need
the money, right.
Roughly $1 million, contribute $1 million from carryover. Even that would barely pay for one turf field,
Right, and that would
maybe
be,
two
it's still an
grass
outdoor
fields.
field, but it would be
Yes.
over at the Red Devil Ranch is what we were looking
Yes,
at.
very little structure in terms of infrastructure for anything else other than just the fields, which still may be done. The big part of the expense, of course, is the Fieldhouse itself for a need in our community of an indoor facility for multi-type uses is really the key. It's something that we could not pull off with even a 50/50 grant or borrow enough money from the bank.
Well, and I
The
know
only
that
way to
there
do
has
that is
been a
with this.
committee that has been trying to get an indoor facility like this for quite some time, and they were looking to do it maybe up by the rec center. I know that was going on for a long time. There's been a lot of interest in the community. I also know that, with the extra 1 cent tax, we were looking at the possibility, but at the time we adopted this resolution to put it on the ballot, that actually had already been, there was already a plan in place to use that. So we didn't necessarily want to compete with that. We wanted to respect the people that were doing that. As it turns out, that fell through. So we were looking at all possible options. And again, I think it was one of those things that whether or not the board felt individually this is a good idea or bad idea, we did feel like the people of this community should be able to have a say, and it should go on the ballot, at least for them to say, one way or the other. And I think all of us supported that idea. So I appreciate you bringing that information to us, and because truthfully, no, I didn't consider it, so thank you.
And Madam Chair, if I may, I know we've considered it all along. We approached the county clerk and asked in terms of ranch land, how that would impact our ranchers and farmers. It does impact them. We knew all along, just as it impacts the residents, just as it impacts our oil and gas differently. There's really 3 categories. So you have residents, ranch land, and then oil and gas. None of that was ignored, none of that was even skipped over by us. We do understand it's expensive and it's an investment. We don't have other options. We couldn't go for the penny tax as a school district to fund this project.
Right.
In terms of this project and schools in our community, they have to be paid for by the community. And 20-year bond is what we went with in terms of our previous bonds for the high school. They were also, at the time, probably extremely expensive. Now we look back and think the high school is really nothing in terms of dollar value, but I think the point is this is the maximum amount we can bond.
Right.
I guess that's not true. It's the minimum amount we can bond. No, it's the maximum amount we can bond.
It's the maximum amount we can
because of our
bond.
county assessment,
Right.
which, again, barely pulls off what we think we need, not necessarily want. There's a lot of things we could want in this project, but $22.7 million will get us what we believe we need, the 3 things that we really have identified from the beginning that we need. Those are all highlighted in my little video in terms of the needs and what this project is really all about.
So I do have one more question, and it's something that was out there that I've been thinking a little bit. Through the bonding process, is there the ability to make balloon payments on this outside of the property owners? So if we have activities or events that we are charging for, could those monies be targeted to alleviate some of the tax burden on the community?
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the board, my recollection and from history, when we paid off the bonds early in, it must have been 88, actually probably 90, 91, when was I, never mind, it was probably 98 when we paid those off. That's how it was paid off. There were several balloon payments that were made, and then finally, the discussion came to the board, do we just want to pay it we had the funds, so at that time it was paid. And it alleviated the burden much earlier than the 20 years would have been. It'd be nice if we could do that, and in terms of financially, and John's back there too, is we've taken steps to pay things off, our commitments on time or earlier if necessary. You're familiar with our energy amount that we did. That's paid off. Those funds flow back to the district. Still, it was a good investment, I believe. It didn't help us financially because remember the state came back and said, well, we'll reduce your energy costs equivalent to what we saved. But in terms of our boilers and our electrical systems, we upgraded those with a significant influx of money. This is similar. I think as we look at the budget, as we budget every year, I guarantee it this year and probably next year, we wouldn't be able to pay more, but that would be our commitment. And again, as long as John and I are here, our philosophy is to pay off our debt as soon as we can.
So the answer is yes, that option is
Yes.
on the table. All right, anyone else? Okay, great. Come on down and thank
My
you.
name and address and all that.
Yep.
Will you just please, yes.
My name is John Porter. I live in 1954 West Summit. I am a co-chairman of the committee to try to see this bond passed. And to answer Mr. Gill's question, when he brought up that it hasn't been disseminated as far as how it's going to affect agriculture, the first thing I did when I found myself in this position, and you know, a little history there, I've always been in support of this type of thing because I know the need for the kids. And I kind of live by the credo, you can't say yes to everybody, but you never say no to kids. And I have never said no to kids in my life, and I never will. My kids will never benefit from this. One has already graduated, one will be graduated if it ever gets built. But this isn't about them, this isn't about me. And a lot of people, well, you know, everybody's got their needs. I don't have a dog in the hunt when it comes to that. I just know that we're a 4A school with 2A facilities. We've gone from many, many moons ago being a big fish in a little pond, we're now a little fish in a big pond. And we have the worst pond of anybody in the ecosystem, if you will. But to go back to what Mr. Gill brought up, the first thing I did is I went down, because when it comes to assessment, when it comes to property taxes, when it comes to, it's a convoluted issue. And that's an understatement, because the first thing I want to do is if we're going to put out any information, I wanted to make sure we had it right. Because this is 2020, and the world that we live in now is my facts and your facts may not be the same facts, and so if my facts don't agree with your facts, then one of us is a liar. That's the way the world works nowadays. We're no longer allowed to have opinions. If our opinions don't agree, we just call each other liars. I didn't want to get caught up in that when it comes to something like this, because it's really important to make sure we have it right. So I went down and I spent about an hour and a half with the county treasurer, and I spent about an hour and a half at the county assessor's office. And really, most of this is really simple to figure out in terms of a household, a residential. As you said, and we tended to think that way. But my thought was exactly that. What's going to happen in agriculture? Because that's a lot of land. It does get property tax. So that was my main goal, was to try to figure that out. The reason we haven't been able to put that information out is twofold. One, we're going out and we're trying to put out as much information as we can in the short period of time about how this will work economically, how this is going to affect individuals, what the cost, the benefits, and everything is, and it's kind of like trying to present a novel to somebody who's driving by on the interstate at 80 miles an hour. You put up a big billboard, it's got to be really quick, and it's the same thing here. We can't turn the information we're trying to put out into a novel. And so when it comes to trying to explain what's going to happen agriculturally, you're going to need a novel. And after I left the county assessor's office, that was the one thing that I just told everybody. I said, we can't really address agriculture because every single agriculture incident situation is different. Because agriculture is taxed wildly different than a residential house. This is one of the things I've learned. It's at a much lower rate, but we're talking about a whole lot more land. And each use of that land gets taxed differently. So this is where it gets really convoluted and really fun. If it's being used as irrigation, is it being used as crops, is it being used as hay, is it being used as feed, is it being used as grazing? all these different things come into play into how the land gets taxed, and there is absolutely no way to explain one agriculture operation situation to another. And there was no way for us to really try to address that. But Kelly is right, that's absolutely true. We didn't address it, but we didn't address it because we didn't want to. Or it's not because we didn't want to, we didn't address it because it was really not possible. The one thing we do know, and the one thing that I did glean when it comes to agriculture is this. Like the Guild Ranch, and that's the one that first came to my mind because it's one of the biggest ranches in this county, the Broadband, the Martin Ranch. These are old families that have been around Evanston for a long time. They own their land. They pay as they go. They're old school. They don't operate on a lot of leased land. They don't operate on a lot of grazing leases as much as some of the smaller ones. So if you're leasing the grazing land, like renting an apartment, you're not going to get it taxed. But those families and a few others are certainly got a right to say, hey, wait a minute, we own our land, and I have no way to answer their questions because I don't know what the uses are. But we did try to address it. And for most agriculture, they're not that big. They're not as big as these ranches. But these ranches not only are large, to their credit, they are also family-owned, and they're individually owned. They're not leased. So they're going to fill it more than anybody else. As a business person, my land is right on the west I-80 exit. And like a rancher, I'm a seasonal business that gets paid once a year, and I am affected by weather, drought, rain, lack of everything else, economic factors that a rancher would. So I always tell everybody, even though I'm a fireworks guy, I get paid once a year. I have a harvest season, and it's affected by the same environmental factors. So I can feel what they're nervous about, and I'm going to feel it on my end. I'm not even going to lie to you. I know what it's going to cost me, but I'm willing to make that choice. And the most thing I can say to all the voters out there and all the people that are asking about this is this. You have to weigh that decision for yourself, and you have to ask, do I want to put forth a little extra tax in order to see this through? Because we have gone, as you said, the petty tax, we have gone down the road of the Taj Mahal of buildings that can house 6 different types of events in one building. And even, we all know that as we went through that process years ago, you're going to be better off to build 3 buildings that can do 2 things than you would be to build 1 building that can do 6. And then we get into the fight over, well, let's build it here, let's build it there, let's build it here, and this is where developers come in, and everybody wants to see how it's going to affect them in a beneficial way economically. This is nothing about this. This is where the school district went back and said, okay, nobody can play in the same sandbox. Everybody wants to build this golden-plated Taj Mahal that can do 7 or 8 different things. It's not realistic. The penny tax is not realistic because you're not going to sell anybody in the Bridger Valley into the idea of building Evanston a Taj Mahal of facilities. So the school finally said, look, we own the property. Let's take a look at building it different places, and let's look at bonding it, which is really where it comes down to. This is about the kids, and this is about the need of the kids, and hopefully it will provide opportunity for the community to see dollars come to Evanston, Wyoming, and I've been asked many times, is the public going to be able to use that? And as Ryan has spoken to you, when it's available, because it's going to go to the kids first, but when it's available, we not only want the community to use it, we need the community to use it. That's the whole concept. So in the end, everybody has to answer that question for themselves, and same thing with the guilds and stuff. I apologize that we were not able to disseminate information regarding agriculture, but it was just really not something that we could do.
Understood. And I know, because I know that taxing on the large ranches, you sort of get a green belt rate for the land itself, but then depending on what you're using it for.
When it comes to everything else, I come out of the assessor's office really feeling like I had a good grasp of how it all worked until we got to agriculture. And then there's so many different variables to it that it's impossible to determine how it's going to affect one operation from the next.
I appreciate it. Appreciate the fact that you looked into it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else?
I have a question.
Sure.
I've had quite a few people ask me, like, when we mention using it for the public when it's not already being occupied by kids, how will that work? So say one of the, like Cowboy Days, not that he's asked me by any means, but if they wanted to come in and use it for their queening contest, have an indoor building, do they rent that? Do they have to supply their own insurance? How is that gonna work?
Right now, what our facility use policy is, and that's all really what we have to go on. It can be modified. Of course, we've modified it, I think, twice since I've been superintendent. The key is really cost. Who pays the cost? What we've done for the community, and especially the city and the county, is anytime they've asked, we've allowed them to use it. If it's a for-profit, right now our policy does not allow for-profit use of our facilities. It's not to slow people down, it's just that they're not available anyway. For this facility, what I see is having a full-time individual that all they do is schedule that facility. 185 days of the school year, we'll probably use it most of the time. So 5 days a week and probably on weekends, just because that's what we do now. But in the summer, on weekends, even during the day for this facility, because it's not a school, it's not hooked to a school in terms of security. If they wanted to use it, let's say tomorrow, we could just not have school in that facility and they could use it for the full day.
So you could have convention
Yes.
things in there in the daytime when kids are in school, in theory.
So we've never not allowed our city and county access to our facilities, and they've never not allowed us except if they were already in use. We've tried, and sometimes they're in use. We are, I think, a pretty good partner, a great partner with the rec center. We see the benefit in this facility for them. Competitive, for-profit, we'd have to make a change to current policy. But what I see happening, and you think right now, starting in November, you would have to schedule it just because of the multiple uses that people would want. If we're talking about a turf surface or a court surface, you couldn't just 1 hour flip to a turf. You would have to plan that ahead of time and schedule it. So maybe 3 days a week it'd be turf, 3 days a week it'd be court. When you got into the winter season, spring season, with soccer and with indoor track and outdoor track, again, you just schedule it so they could kind of flip-flop. When it got to soccer season and outdoor track, soccer would have priority. You would just identify priorities. As soon as those events are done, there are 3 months that that facility could be used by the community, and I think for-profit, if the board chose to do that, anyone could use that facility. And I look at those opportunities, wouldn't someone in our community, an entrepreneur, the city, the county, would have to have uses for that. We could use some of it for our football camps, our basketball camps, our dance camps, our cheerleading camps, in the summer that we don't have the facility now that we could potentially use that. Soccer, if we had an outdoor soccer field linked to an indoor soccer field, the things we could do, those are just us. I don't see our usage as a risk to the community because we already know we would fill that facility almost constantly during the school year. And they would be multi-day activities we know we could get. Really, the question is, would someone step up in the city and the county, in our community, to use it during the summer, other than us? And that's what we're hoping. I look at a facility like that with the machine shop and the roundhouse, there's probably nothing that this community couldn't offer. But that's going to take someone with vision, planning. The facilities that we visited, they have a full-time person, that's all they do. Their job is to schedule that facility 365 days of the year. We'd probably have to take Sundays out, but again, that would be, I think, the goal. That wouldn't be someone that we currently have, because the people that we currently have on staff are full-time job already. We'd have to find someone that, you have to find the right person, and that would be a commitment, is to find someone who could schedule that. We've already
But the
talked
short
about...
answer is yes, Cowboy Days could use it if it was available.
Or could rent it, would it be like a rental thing they'd have to pay?
Well, and what we have now, our policy talks about,
It's the cost of the
legitimate
janitorial-
costs.
Yeah, the facilities cleanup.
So, for example, if the city and county use it, typically we don't charge them. If the sheriff's department always did DARE, all they do is they petition for a waiver. And so we waive the fee. We become co-sponsor. The women's conference, we co-sponsor, but we can't pay for all of it, so they pay for heating and lighting, and then the overtime, because someone has to open and close it and clean it, and snow removal. Mat Camp, that's a for-profit organization. We give them the whole high school for a week for very little. Per day, it's less than $1,000 per day for the whole high school. So we're a good partner in all that. The only time, matter of fact, I don't know if I've ever denied someone access, except for those who are unwilling to fill out a fee. Insurance is required by policy because we don't want to assume that liability, so it protects the district. So far, that hasn't been an issue. It surprises me how easy it is to get a policy for liability. But again, our current facility use policy doesn't have a field house in vision. We'd have to add the field house and change what we wanted to do per the community. If the board decides to just let the community use it carte blanche, you could always do that, which we did until probably maybe 10 years ago.
I mean, it's, we have to balance our interest and the cost of maintaining the facility with that sort of use, but yeah, I mean, that's why we've drafted the policies the way we have right now.
Probably 5 years ago, we identified it as a burden. Our facilities were using so much, and the overtime that it was costing us, we just couldn't do it for what our old facility use was. So now it's based, John did a study on exact costs, and you can rent the auditorium, and again, that's a 1,200-seat auditorium for $500 a day.
Right.
So just as a general person, you can do
Yeah.
that?
Yep.
People don't understand how much our facilities are used by other entities unless you go live up there. You show up at 6 in the morning and the Drum and Bugle Corps from California is staying there overnight on a trip somewhere, and we've loaned that out for that use. They take their mats out and sleep on the gym floor. They have to be out by the time school starts. With another facility, they might not have to be. We've had Forest Service training that's gone on in our facilities. We've had National Guard training, and we've the Sheriff's Office, Police Department come in and do their physical training and tests, in there. And we've always, you can't say it hasn't been in the way, because it's been in the way if you're a teacher there and you want to start your class at 8 in the morning and you get noticed about
try not to make
2
it be in
days
the way.
before that the National Guard's there, by the way. And but this would allow us so much more flexibility with that. But we do allow an awful lot of that community involvement in that.
I know people underestimate how often our facilities are
Yeah.
used. And when it's cold weather, that's when we're talking about them being used. For example, this Thursday, by the way, we have regional volleyball here in town. It's different than it's ever been before, but it's a 4-team tournament. It is an inconvenience to the high school that starts at 3, so those high school kids aren't going to be use that gym probably the last 2 periods of the day. We'll also have, a second part of regionals on Saturday here in our community. Again, another 4 teams coming in, hopefully with us there too, so only 3. But I don't think people realize that our facilities in the winter, I'm talking about from November, when we start our winter season and our spring season, they're booked. The rec center takes advantage of any open slot that we don't have during the evenings. You can't get into the high school gym, so no one could even try to schedule that one, because you have classics in the morning, of course, school. We have late and early practice, and then typically, it's usually soccer, I think, who comes in after our late basketball practice, so they can...
And indoor track.
And indoor track squeezes in during the winter. And so that facility cannot be used. If we host an event in our auditorium, because of the location of our auditorium, we can't do it during the school day. First of all, there's no parking. No fault to any of you guys, but there's no parking at the high school for a secondary event. Even when we do the EI, the Evanston Invitational, we've worked it out where it's only a half day of school. Because you bring 14 teams in, now it's 14, it used to be 25, there's no place for anybody to park. Well, now we have a work day on that day, we send our kids home at noon, usually at 11:30, the meet starts at 1, we can work those things out. With this facility And the parking structure, you could just reserve it for any time during the school year, and we could work it out. And I think that's the key, is we have been a good steward of public funds forever in this district. You just look at the high school, I think that's a perfect example. That high school was built in '85. It's a beautiful facility. It's not that we haven't maintained the facilities we have, we just don't have the facilities that other communities have. We do not have an auxiliary gym. We do have 2 pools, which is unique. But again, none of you are responsible for that either, or me. They've been here for a while. But those are challenges we truly face. And I wish someone that doesn't think we allow our community to use the facilities really sat down and we could show them our calendar. It's amazing that we can balance these facilities the way we do. And they still look pretty good.
Well, this weekend is kind of a perfect example. You mentioned that we have the regionals, and then we also have jamborees. We have 8 to 10 middle school teams coming here that we have to put into elementaries because we don't have the facilities to accommodate these middle school basketball teams.
Which economically would be about a 6-figure day
Economic boost, right?
for the community.
And the funny thing is, if we don't host them, they don't get hosted. Because Bubba, realizing we're going to have regional volleyball, tried to find an alternative, someone to do the jamboree. There's no takers, but we have teams calling that would like to participate here. So, and those dual challenges, typically any Friday or any Saturday, it's just not one event. And we're talking from November until May. It's multiple events. And this Fieldhouse would be used at that level.
Yeah.
I know it would be.
All right. Well, unless we have anything else? Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second? Any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good. Thank you guys very, very much.
By the way, there is a chamber luncheon this Thursday at noon.
Yes.
So we've invited the chamber. You're all welcome to come. We'll talk about our strategic plan and the Fieldhouse.
Okay.
You may have heard that November 3rd is Election Day. It's also board meeting, so we'll see you then.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Actually, not his case. He's not on anyway. Unless he wants to try to walk.
I get you, Bubba, though. I'm not doing anything.
No, it is. Okay, but as far as trying to get on an awful property.
I know.
This still went off good, though.
Yeah.
All right, I'll take care of it
How you
tomorrow.
doing, Cassie?
Yeah, I know, and I always thought it was more that way, you know, that they had.
No, towards Carter.
Did you get shut off?
I don't know. I'm gonna go find out from
The
John.
Carter Triangle and everything out there, they've got pump and shot out there and all theirs, and then they got the place out toward Manila and all that, so.
See you next meeting.
Okay,
I'll say, come out and cut beef.
there you go. See you, dude.
See ya.
I agree with if we just did twice a month. Yes. Let's get it done now. We can put a pacing guide together after that and have it done.
Yeah, I forgot about the middle school. Yes.
Girls.
What's that?
This weekend.
They got used elementary.
Absolutely.
2 of them, I think. They're using EMS and DMS, and then they're going to use Uinta Meadows and talking about maybe even having to go to Aspen.
See, that's trying to schedule that. You step up and have something here, especially on the middle school.
What do we do there?
Something like that. Boom. You're full. You can't even beat that stuff. But we also used to have